Okay, let's jump right into it. I'm using this board that I received in a package. I've used something similar to this in a previous DIY, and I'll leave a link below in the description box so you can go over and see what it looks like. But I bought it from Home Depot and I think it was less than $4. Now I'm using this because I want my Tic Tac Toe Board to be really firm and stable. Now if you really don't want to go out and get the board from Home Depot, you can substitute it by using 2 pieces of foam board, and I'm actually going to use a piece of foam board in conjunction with my board. To create my Tic Tac Toe Board, I'm going to use 9 Dollar Tree mirrors. But first I'll remove all the feet and the labels from the mirrors, then line them up on the board, trace it, and cut the board with an X-Acto knife. I lined a ruler up on the line that I created with the ink pen to make sure that I create a straight line with my X-Acto knife. I scored the board about 4 times and then broke it on the line. Now as you can see, it wasn't a clean break, so I cleaned it up with some scissors. Now because I want my Tic Tac Toe Board to be really strong, I'm going to reinforce it with some foam board. I removed the top sheet of paper from the foam board and then put my wooden board on top, traced it, and then cut the foam board the same size. If you're not using the wooden board that I showed earlier, make sure you cut 2 pieces of foam board. Now I removed the sheet of paper from this side of the foam board because that's the side that I'll be gluing to the wood board. Alright, so I'm just going to move this to the side, making sure that I keep it in the direction it belongs. I'm going to add some of my Gorilla Clear Glue. And now I'll add some hot glue for an immediate hold. I noticed here that the foam board needed trimming, so I took my X-Acto knife and pressed down and took off the extended edge. Next, I removed the other top sheet of the paper from the other side of the foam board. Next, I'll glue all 9 mirrors to the board, starting with the middle. I'll be using more of my Gorilla Glue along with hot glue. I'm done gluing the mirrors down. Now I'll put this aside to dry for about 3 hours. Now it's time to make the X's for our board game. I'm going to use these wood craft cubes from Dollar Tree along with some of these tower blocks from Dollar Tree as well. To create the X, I'm going to use this cube block in the center and then glue a tower block to each side using 4 tower blocks in all. If you're wondering why I use the cube in the middle, it's because it makes the X even. I put a small amount of wood glue on the tower block and then glued it to the center block. I repeated these same steps on the remaining 3 tower blocks. Now the wood glue dries really fast, so after I let this sit for about 3 minutes, I slid the whole thing over so it wouldn't stick to the paper. I actually did that a couple of times before it completely dried. And here's some that I did ahead of time, and they're all completely dry. Now for the O's, you can be creative when it comes to this. I found these rings at a thrift store, and I found several at Goodwill also. These are the ones that I found at Goodwill, and they're pretty much the same exact size. I see them all the time, so you can use these for the O's. But if you can't find these, I have another alternative that I'll show you later. You can also use some bracelets. You could go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby and probably find something there as well. So just use your imagination and come up with something creative and fun. Now if you're lucky enough to find these or have some already, you know that they have these little screws on there. Just take the screw off and then paint them the color that you want them to be. Just to give you an idea of what you could do with these rings, I glued some vase fillers on it from Michael's and then used some of the green stained glass paint to paint it. Okay, so it's only been about 10 minutes and these two X's that I made are already dry enough for me to paint. So I'm going to take these X's and the O's outside and spray paint them all silver. Now remember, this is a DIY. Feel free to choose whatever colors you want. You can paint them black and white or black and red. Just whatever color you want. The sky's the limit with this DIY. So I painted my X's and my O's. So while I'm waiting on those to dry, I decided to go ahead and add some tower blocks to the bottom of my board because I wanted to have some height to it. I think it's more attractive that way. Now as you can see, I painted one side of my blocks already, and that's because I'm going to add some bling wrap around them. And as you know, bling wrap is a mesh and you can see through it. So I'd rather have the background be silver than blonde. The silver behind the bling wrap will make it more attractive. As I go on with the DIY, you'll see that I could have actually waited before I painted the block silver. And that's because I had to go in with a paintbrush and some more silver paint to paint the foam board. Also, let me remind you that I did remove the paper from the bottom of the foam board as well because I knew I wanted to add these blocks. And I wanted to make sure that they all stuck to the foam board. Now to give my board a more finished look, I cut another piece of the foam board to glue onto the bottom of my game board. And like with the other piece of foam board, I removed that top sheet of paper before gluing it to the bottom of my board. So now I'll put this aside, put some weight on top, and let it dry for about 2 or 3 hours. Okay, so I'm back and I waited for about 3 hours before moving on. And if you recall, I mentioned that I'll be using some bling wrap to decorate the sides of my game board. That's why I went ahead and painted my tower block silver, but as you can see, the foam board is white, so now I need to go in and touch up the foam board. I used silver acrylic paint to paint the foam board, but as you can see, it's actually darker than the spray paint that I used on the tower blocks. So to make sure that everything was one color, I went over the blocks with the paint as well. I let the paint completely dry and then mix some Mod Podge and glitter together and brush that on top of the paint. And again, because the bling is a mesh and you can see through it, it'll give it a more blingy, attractive look. I measured the bling wrap, cut it, and then hot glued it around the base. Once that was done, I flipped it over and added hot glue wherever it was needed. And here's my completed game board, and I absolutely love how it turned out. Okay, moving right along, here's the rings that I painted silver. I made them more glam and more blingy by brushing on some of my Mod Podge and glitter mixture. And I also used the mixture to fill the holes that the screws left behind. I brushed the Mod Podge and glitter mixture on one side of the ring, let it dry, and then came back and painted the other side with the mixture as well. Now you can do the same exact thing with the X's. Glam them up and make them shiny with the glitter and Mod Podge mixture. But as for me, I'm going to glam my X's up because I'm not going to use those O's. I'm going to use something else, and I'll show you that in just a minute. I'm going to use these mirror tiles along with some bling wrap to decorate my X's. I start out by putting some mirror tiles around the cube in the middle. Then I added more mirror tiles on top of the tower block, and I'll do that for each one. I'll decorate the sides of the tower block with bling wrap. To finish it off, I'll top off the cube with more mirror tiles. And here's one that I've completed already. As I mentioned earlier, I had something different in mind that I wanted to use. You all know how I like to think outside the box. I thought that using this magnifying glass for my O's would not be only different, but glam as well. So to use it, all you need to do is pop the glass out the holder and you have your circle. Now if you decide to use these, make sure that you buy these at the same time because as you see they come in two different sizes. The larger ones I've had a long time and only had 2 of those, so I had to go out and buy 5 more small ones at the Dollar Tree. So make sure you buy them all at the same time. Now as for me, I prefer the larger magnifying glass because it matches better with the X. So I'm going to be on the lookout for 3 more. Now to decorate it, I simply hot glued on 1 row of bling wrap and that's it. So now I have a total of 5 O's and 5 X's. I'm going to clean everything up, put it together and let you guys see what it looks like. And here it is, creative crafters, my beautiful Glam Tic Tac Toe board game. And I absolutely love how it turned out. It turned out better than I had envisioned. I created this DIY as a Father's Day gift idea, but you can certainly make this for anyone. Now if it's a little bit too much blingy and glam, you can tone it down, it's up to you. This one I would be keeping for myself, and I'm going to make another set of X's to match the wooden O's. So when the kids play, I won't have to worry about safety. Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed this DIY, and if you did, please leave me a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. It's absolutely free. Also, please don't forget to comment and share. Alright everyone, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.